Welcome to this special report called The Top 10 Rules for the Next Generation Leaders of the Liberty Movement. My name is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. I'm the founder of many web properties, including alternativenews.com, the search engine goodgopher.com, the news aggregation website fetch.news, and literally hundreds of websites that are out there, including naturalnews.com. I've long been recognized as one of the leading voices of the liberty movement. I trend toward health freedom and food freedom, medical freedom. But because I've been around the liberty movement so long and I know so many people in the liberty movement, I thought it was time to pass along some very important wisdom to the next generation of people in the liberty movement, those of you who are the rising voices. Because, before we know it, we're all old and retired, and it's your job, it's your turn to fight for liberty and save this nation from the tyranny and oppression that seems to be growing every day. So, because I have this wisdom and experience from being in this industry for so long and having worked with many of the most popular people and some of people all across the spectrum, from high integrity people to low integrity people, I thought I would share with you these words of wisdom that can literally save your life, but definitely can also help you achieve online success in terms of reaching people, because that's what we want to do. We want to wake people up. And just as background, just as credibility, yeah, I've been threatened. I've been death threatened. I'm actually constantly threatened. I've been threatened with lawsuits. I've been threatened with violence. I've been there have been numerous attempts to hack my private email accounts, which is why I don't have private email accounts anymore. There have been countless attempts to hack my various websites, which is why I designed them to be hack-proof. They don't even run active code. I have experienced practically everything that you're going to experience if you're effective in the liberty movement. And by the way, if you hear this hyperventilating in the background, it's my dog. And he was just chasing the donkeys on my ranch. I actually live on a ranch in Texas, and I rescue animals. And I have right now kind of a zoo going on out there with chickens, dogs, and goats, and donkeys. And it's quite an ordeal. Nevertheless, that's the easy part of life. The hard part, of course, is fighting for liberty, but that is our mission. So let's get right to the list. These are the top 10 rules for the next generation leaders of the liberty movement. And if you know other people, by the way, who are the voices of the liberty movement, bloggers, journalists, radio hosts, podcast people, preppers, survivalists, 10th Amendment folks, whoever it is, please forward this to them, because they're going to find this to be very valuable. And they already know probably who I am, so they won't question, they won't say, "Oh, what is this, some government propaganda?" No, this is Mike Adams here, just sharing with you the truth. So let's get right to it. Number one, yes, I actually have these numbered. Number one, don't talk to the mainstream media. The mainstream media is not interested in hearing from you. They only have one purpose in contacting you, and that is to mock you, period. Through all the experience that I've had and other people have had, this has become a steadfast rule. I understand that it's tempting that as you're rising up and you're getting more popular, and one day, you have a Washington Post reporter contact you, and they tell you this story about how they're going to feature you in a Washington Post story, right? And they're going to link to your website, and they're going to mention you. They're lying to you, okay? Just get this through your head now so that you're not disappointed. They're lying to you. What they're trying to do is interview you and then quote you out of context to make you look as crazy and kooky as possible. Their entire job is to mock you. If you happen to give an interview that is so intelligent and so well-informed that they can't mock you, they will ignore you and not print a word. I know this from personal experience. I was interviewed, for example, by The Atlantic on an alternative medicine story And the interview was so wonderful, and this reporter was just so authentic and genuine. I actually made an exception to my own rule, and I said, I'll talk to the Atlantic. Let's talk to them about the need to prevent diabetes and the failures of chemical medicine and pharmaceuticals, psychiatric drugs, the dangers of vaccines, especially when given in such high doses to young children. And I gave a fantastic interview. It was one of the best interviews of my life. I recorded it, and when it was all said and done, the Atlantic did not use a single word. Why? Because it made too much sense. It sounded too intelligent. They were looking for somebody to sound like a total kook, and I did not fulfill that role for them, so they didn't use a word. So what did I do? I printed the interview myself and entitled it, "This is the interview the Atlantic doesn't want you to read." But just make a note. The mainstream media is the radical leftist agenda media. They hate America. They hate you. They hate the Second Amendment. They hate the First Amendment. They hate the Bill of Rights. They hate white people. They hate conservatives. They hate everything that you stand for. They are not interested in you, in promoting you, publicizing you, or even letting you tell your story in a fair and balanced way. That is not their interest at all. It doesn't matter how convincing the reporter is who talks to you. That reporter has a boss. That boss will selectively edit the interview, even if that reporter doesn't. So it doesn't even matter if the reporter is honest. Their boss isn't. So rule number one, do not talk to the mainstream media. All they're going to do is mock you. And if you don't believe me, just ask Alex Jones, who was interviewed by Piers Morgan. The entire purpose of that interview was to mock Alex Jones and make the Liberty Movement look like a bunch of crazy people. And thank you, Alex, for fulfilling that for them. Actually gave them just what they wanted. All right. Point number 2. Ignore Google. There are too many people in the Liberty Movement who are trying to get listed on Google. They're trying to improve their search engine rankings on Google. Forget Google. Google has already forgotten you. You probably noticed that you've been penalized by Google. This is not an accident. You've been artificially downranked by Alexa. This is also not an accident. You have been banned from Google News. This is not an accident. All of these gatekeepers on the internet, including Google, Yahoo, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, they are intentionally banning anyone who has a pro-America stance. Anyone who believes in the Constitution, the founders of America, the Bill of Rights, the 10th Amendment, the Second Amendment, for that matter. If you question the Federal Reserve, you're a kook. You're going to get banned or penalized by all of these gatekeepers. So stop trying to play their game. Don't be a fool and play in their sandbox. Go to a different playground, a different sandbox, if you will, where you can get on the first page of the rankings in a search engine like goodgopher.com. That's the search engine that my team built. I designed it. It is the world's only search engine that focuses entirely on the new media. The mainstream media is banned from all the results. Wikipedia is banned from the results. Government websites are banned. It features only alternative and independent media website results, and that's why people love to use it. It's never going to be as big as Google. Doesn't have to be. That's not the point. It's for truth seekers. And truth seekers, unfortunately, will always be a minority, and yet it's enough. We don't need 99% of the population to wake up to have a successful revolution. We only need like 2%. So if you're among the 2% of the awakened, stop trying to play Google's game. Instead, submit your website to goodgopher.com, and you can come up in the first page of results on that search engine very, very quickly. You'll also get spidered, by the way, for all of the news monitoring websites that you'll see on fetch.news, which is the news aggregation system that I built. And we monitor almost 200 different topics with real-time news. It shows up on those domains. Like if you want to monitor the FDA, just go to fda.news. If you want to monitor the CDC, go to cdc.news. We've got websites there on Agenda 21, geoengineering, Big Pharma, the banksters, the Federal Reserve System, the banking scams, censorship, disinformation, everything you can imagine, cyber warfare, frankenfoods, you name it, including sites on all the chemicals that are killing you, like atrazine and aspartame and so on. So if you get your site into Good Gopher, you will get a lot of promotion in our world, the world of the truth seekers. Stop trying to play in Google's world. They are not interested in promoting you. Rule number 3 is be assertive, tell the truth, and don't apologize for it. Now, I fell victim to breaking this rule somewhat a few years ago. There was a time when even I thought that the goal was to be accepted or recognized by a larger and larger chunk of the mainstream audience. I appeared on the Dr. Oz show with some of my scientific findings of contamination in food, for example. I was invited to a lot of shows. I've done all the big shows, coast to coast. For example, I was a substitute host for InfoWars for 2 years. But I was really getting into mainstream media. The truth is, if you tell the truth, you will not be invited to mainstream media for very long. And nor should you really seek it. If you're going to tell the truth, if you're going to be a leader of the liberty movement, you have to make a decision now that you're going to prioritize the truth over popularity. You're never going to be popular. Instead, you can be philosophically truthful, which is far more valuable, by the way. So you'll never get a corporate sponsorship from McDonald's, nor should you ever want one. Why take money to sell poison to children, right? So be assertive. Tell the truth. Don't apologize for it. Be kind of like Donald Trump in this particular realm, where he just tells the truth, he doesn't apologize for it, and he doesn't backtrack the truth that he already stated. All right, stay with me now. We'll be back after this break with part 2 of the top 10 rules for the next generation of leaders of the Liberty Movement. Welcome back, continuing now with the top 10 rules for the next generation of leaders of the Liberty Movement. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, here with alternativenews.com and, of course, talknetwork.com. Now, point number 5 here is to plan to have all of your monetization cut off. You wouldn't believe how many times this happens in the Liberty Movement. Let's say you're doing well. You have a popular YouTube channel, and it's growing, and you're starting to earn some money, maybe $10 a day, maybe $50 a day, $100 a day. And then at some point, you might even be earning a few $1,000s a month because you're getting popular, because the truth is popular. And since you're telling the truth, you're attracting a lot of viewers, and you're starting to earn money. Well, guess what's going to happen? YouTube is going to cut off your monetization. They do it to everybody. They're not singling you out. And I'm just warning you in advance, they're going to cut off your revenue source. Their plan, of course, is to drive you bankrupt, drive you out of business, force you to go back to work in the workforce so that you don't really have time to talk about liberty. This is all by design. Remember that YouTube is owned by Google. Google is owned by the NSA. If you are telling the truth, you're going to have your search engine results penalized. You're going to have your YouTube monetization cut off. So you need to start thinking about having multiple sources of revenue that cannot be cut off and controlled by these gatekeeper forces. Along these lines, you should also prepare to have your Visa and MasterCard e-commerce systems shut off as well. So let's say that you sell something online that the federal government doesn't like, such as, I don't know, the ghost machine, that sort of 3D milling device that mills out the holes of an AR-15 receiver. Well, when they tried to launch that and they tried to sell it online, of course, guess what happened? The feds notified Visa and MasterCard to yank their e-commerce contracts so that they couldn't even accept money. This is how dirty the government plays. Even though your device is completely legal, and even though you're not breaking any laws whatsoever, they can cut off your revenue source whenever they want to. So you need to have multiple sources of revenue. There are lots of strategies for doing that. The strategy that I've followed, and one that is very, very difficult, but can also be a tremendous source of funding for your operations, is to own a food and superfood and dietary supplement manufacturing facility, which we do. We have our own facility. We're certified organic. We are GMP compliant with the FDA. That's called Good Manufacturing Practices. We have our own warehouse and fulfillment center and customer service center. We have our own private laboratory for testing of these products that we sell and so on. This is not an easy way to do it. So just a warning, if you try to do that, you're going to spend about 5 years of your life working 16 hours a day to get to that point. It's not an easy way to do it. There are other easier ways to do it, such as, for example, being an affiliate of ours. For people in the Liberty Movement, we will actually give you an affiliate domain name that forwards to our store, but gives you credit for everything that person purchases. And we set those up for people at no charge. If you're interested, you can contact us. But it doesn't have to be us, of course. You could sell other products, drop ship type of arrangements with food storage companies like Numana, for example, or you could do affiliate deals with other companies. You could do ClickBank offers for information products. There are lots of different ways to earn revenue. You could even accept Bitcoin donations or take Bitcoin currency for things that you are selling. Just remember, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do order fulfillment and customer service, so be prepared for that. The other side of this point, which is point number 5, is to live within your means. Once you start to see revenue, don't go blowing it on high overhead items. Don't run out and buy a new house or a new car where you have a big monthly payment. Don't upgrade your lifestyle until you have the cash to do it. Don't go into debt. Don't borrow money to live lavishly. This is a huge mistake that I've seen across the Liberty Movement of a few people who have had financial success, and they have become crazy people. I guess because they never had money before in their lives, and so the first time they get money, they just go crazy with it. And then they have a lifestyle that's very high overhead, and then they have to support that lifestyle by pushing products constantly on their shows or their websites or whatever they have, and they turn their entire show into an infomercial, and it's just annoying and sickening to everybody else. So be very, very careful. Live within your means, live cheaply, and you will actually have more freedom. Does that make sense? Actually, that's a good piece of advice for anybody, not just Liberty Movement people, just day-to-day people. If you live within your means and you're not in debt all the time, then you actually have a lot more freedom. All right, point number 6, which kind of goes along with this in terms of revenue streams. If you do sell foods or dietary supplements, let me test them for you in my lab before you sell them so that you know they're clean. I've had a couple of instances now where I've had to blow the whistle on 2 different products that were being promoted across the alternative news industries or Liberty Movement websites and so on. And I've had to sound the alarm on the high levels of aluminum or lead found in those products. Just in terms of public safety, I had to sound the alarm because a lot of people were taking these products and eating, in essence, inorganic lead or inorganic aluminum. And so because I have a lab, it's a legitimate lab, it's an ICP-MS instrument right now. We're expanding into organic chemistry with HPLC instrumentation. This is a lab that you would find at any large high-end university. And we built this lab privately. We own it. We own everything in it. And we run it, and it's in a secret location, so nobody can screw with our lab. Now, if you let us test the products before you sell them, then you won't run into a situation where one day you're selling a product and you find out, oh, there's a bunch of lead in it, and there's a backlash, and then you lose money perhaps, or you have to give refunds and so on and so forth. So if you sell food and dietary products, let me test them for you. For Liberty Movement people, we offer commercial testing at heavily discounted rates just to help you get going, get started, and make sure that what you're selling is clean. It's also going to keep you out of trouble with the FDA and could even help with the FTC, for example, which is often, very interested in your marketing claims and so on. So just make sure, again, if you're selling products, make sure that they're clean, and we can help you do that. Let's see. Number 7 is a very important piece. Don't backstab other people across the Liberty Movement. that's going to come back to haunt you. And there are certain people in this movement who are just egomaniacs who can't stand anyone else being successful other than themselves. And so they actively destroy anyone around them who becomes popular or effective. And, these individuals are absolute maniacs, and people hate working for them. They have high employee turnover, for example, and they make their employees sign all kinds of documents where they can never ever say anything bad, even after they quit and so on. They get threatened with lawsuits. So this kind of thing goes on, and it's very sad to see it, but it does exist. So if you're going to be a big shot in the liberty movement today or down the road, be someone who is just collaborative in terms of helping other people instead of trying to destroy everybody else around you. You're actually going to have better longevity, and you'll have a lot more respect. So that's just a side note, really, even though I've numbered it number 7. But it's important. I like to help other people rise up in this industry. This is why I've invited everybody to submit their websites to goodgopher.com. You may not even know this, too, but we have over 500 .news domain names, and so far several dozen people in the Liberty Movement have been launching websites in partnership with us. We're promoting their work. We're publicizing their work. It's being spidered and indexed in our search engines and news aggregation sites, alternativenews.com, and so on. We're helping a lot of people find the publicity that they deserve. And the reason that we're successful is, again, because I respect other people's work. I want to collaborate with other leaders of the liberty movement. It's not about me. I don't run into a public scene with a bullhorn and start out screaming everybody else. I think that's insane. And it's also extremely rude. It's more important to be one voice of many and to help other people achieve success too, so that you're not the one lone voice. You're actually one voice among many people who are all calling for liberty, who are taking action for liberty, people who are helping each other, linking to each other, having each other invited on their radio shows or quoting each other in their stories and so on. If we're going to have success in this, it's got to be based on a decentralized network of people, not one leader who is effectively a tyrant. That just doesn't work. This isn't North Korea. So we need actually many leaders. We need many voices, men and women, not just white people, but African American people, Latino people. There are such a diverse collection of individuals who all love liberty and are willing to speak out for it. I think we should support them, and we should help them rise up and help them become as famous and effective as they can possibly be. And this is my philosophy, and it's a non-egocentric philosophy, and it just sickens me to see the people who are just totally, it's all about them, it's all about their ego and their celebrity status and whatever. Just sickening. Point number, 8? Yeah. This is an important point. Never use your website or radio show or podcast or what have you to call for violence. Do not do that. Promote peaceful revolution wherever possible. I know sometimes it's tempting because the government works by coercion and the threat of violence all the time. Medically speaking, they want you to take their mandatory vaccines. And how are they going to do it? Basically by putting a gun to your head or taking your money and calling it taxes. They're going to put a gun to your head. Or property taxes, or eminent domain. I know the government works by coercion and violence, but you shouldn't. We are different from that. We believe in really nonviolent revolution wherever possible, violence being the absolute last resort out of self-defense. Stay with me. I'll be right back with part 3. All right, continuing with our list here. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, and these are the top 10 rules for the next generation of leaders of the Liberty Movement. And I'm talking about point number 8, which is never directly call for violence. Number 1, it's going to get you arrested. And even if it can be interpreted that you said something that was calling for violence, it will be quoted out of context. Yeah, I know this has happened to me and many others where we said something that was not calling for violence, and yet someone maliciously misquoted it out of context on purpose to make it appear like, oh, we were calling for violence. No. We call for violence only as a last-ditch, life-saving, self-defense type of thing. But we don't want to see bloodshed to achieve the revolution of society. And why is that? Why is that? If you think about it, we believe in the fundamental liberties that are outlined in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution. We believe that every man, woman, and child has a right to life, liberty, and happiness, even if they disagree with us. By the way, doesn't mean we have to force anyone to think any certain way. Remember, that's what the government does. That's what the left does. The left is intolerant. The radical left is totalitarian. But people who believe in liberty are in favor of freedom of choice to think the way you want to think, speak the words you wish to speak, believe what you want to believe, and live your life in the way that you wish to live. And by the way, technically, if you really believe in individual liberty, and I'm on the record about this, you should be not only pro-Second Amendment, but also you shouldn't really have anything against people being gay, frankly. And so I just mentioned that because let's be consistent here. I'm not gay, so I'm not saying it for that reason, but there are, believe it or not, a lot of pro-liberty gay people out there who deserve to be recognized for their contributions. So what if they're gay? It's none of your business or my business. Who cares? As long as they're pro-liberty, they believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they absolutely deserve our support, by the way. So I just want to be on the record for that. Doesn't mean that, that they should be pushing their lifestyles on the rest of us, but the gay people that I know are not like that at all. They're just smart, intelligent people who are pro-liberty. So I really respect that. And I think that if we are to be ethically grounded people in the liberty movement, we must respect the individual rights of people, including those who are perhaps different than we are. All right, point number 9. When you are writing stories or citing stories on your radio show or your podcast and so on, stop sourcing the mainstream media. It's this crazy contradiction in the liberty movement where people, they'll attack the New York Times and the Washington Post as being horrible, dishonest, false news organizations, fake news. And then they'll turn around the next minute and they'll cite a story from the New York Times and say, see, it's true. It's in the New York Times. Now even they admitted it. This is a contradiction. And I know this because I'm guilty of this myself too. I've done this before and I've caught myself doing it. That's why I'm mentioning it. Wouldn't it be better if we cited each other? Other sources in the new media, the independent media, should be your sources for citing statements in your articles. Well, the reason this has been hard to do up until now is because there hasn't been a resource where you could search just the new media. So that is, again, part of why I invented goodgopher.com. It's the only search engine focused entirely on the new media, independent media. So if you're looking for sources for a story that you're writing, you want to cite somebody else, suppose you want to say something like, oh, yeah, and Vince Foster's body had been rolled up in a carpet after he committed suicide during the Clinton administration, and they found his body in a park, rolled down the bottom of a hill, with carpet fibers all over his clothing. Okay, who do you cite? Well, you probably don't want to cite the New York Times or the Washington Post, right? So you just go into goodgopher.com and you search for Vince Foster murdered or whatever, and you're going to find sources there that you can cite. That's the beauty of that search engine. And again, that's why I built it. So, and if your website is not already included in goodgopher.com, just submit your site and we'll include it. So anyway, use that tool and stop promoting the mainstream media. Jeez. They hate you. They hate America. They hate freedom. They hate the Constitution. They hate the First Amendment, and they sure damn well hate the Second Amendment. So why keep promoting them? It doesn't make any sense. All right, point number 10. And by the way, I'm going to add one more point here, so we'll actually have 11. But point number 10 is, don't be a hypocrite. Live the life that you promote or that you espouse publicly. And the reason I say this is because there are, again, certain individuals in the liberty movement who publicly they talk about family values and Christian values and how they're so ethical and honest, and privately it's a completely different story. They're womanizing, cheating, substance abusing, whatever. I've seen this firsthand, and it's sickening, and eventually you're going to get exposed. Everybody. The truth can't be hidden forever, even in the independent media. So if you're going to talk about being an honest, ethical person, you need to live that lifestyle. And I know that's difficult. Wait a minute, I'm looking at my list now. Did I? I missed a number. I missed number 4 earlier. Okay, I'm going to go back to that. But sorry about that. You might think, oh, I can't count. No, I just missed number 4 in the earlier chapter. Anyway, I'll get to it here. Go back and make up for it. But the bottom line here is, don't be a hypocrite. If you talk about a lifestyle, live that lifestyle. And, along these lines, I have to say, just for my own, on the record, I don't go out and party. I don't socialize with anybody. Everybody knows this because they always ask me out, and I say no. I'm not interested in it. Not interested. So I don't go out drinking with anybody. I don't want to be part of that scene. I don't want to be placed in a compromising situation. I don't want to have women coming on to me with sex traps to try to manipulate me. I don't want to have, any kind of staged situation. And this gets to number 4, by the way, which is don't allow yourself to be manipulated into compromising situations that can be used to blackmail you. That's number 4. And so I am very careful about this because I know people who have been compromised and blackmailed and then controlled. And that's because they got sloppy. They let success go to their heads. They thought they were the big stuff, and they thought all these people coming on to them were genuine. Turns out it wasn't the case. It can all be staged. It can all be manipulated, and then they've got you. This is the same games that they play in Washington, D.C. at the highest levels of politics in America. How do you think they compromised John Boehner? It's easy to guess. They've got photos of him with, who knows? I mean, I don't have proof of this. This is just conjecture, but maybe photos with another woman or another man, or with photos with Jared Fogle at his house partying with Subway children. Who knows? Or with goats. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that Boehner has done any of that stuff. I'm just saying, as an example, they've got something on him, and they've got something on everybody in Washington that they allow to get into positions of power. They have to be able to blackmail everybody so that they can control them. Well, the same thing happens in the alternative news industry or the liberty movement industry. Same thing happens. All the top people are targeted with campaigns to compromise them. And this is achieved primarily through social interactions that involve a lot of alcohol, where people are encouraged to get out of hand, and then there's photographic evidence taken. And the reason that I have never been caught in any of this kind of garbage is because, number one, I don't drink. Everybody knows I don't drink. I'm well known for that. They call me the Mormon for some reason. I'm not Mormon. I have nothing against Mormons, but I'm not into alcohol. I don't like being around crazy people. And also, I don't do drugs. Everybody knows this. I've never even smoked pot, believe it or not, even though I'm against the criminalization of pot. But I've never even smoked it. This is just not my thing. So it's very, very hard for them to trap me in social situations that can be compromising. But I'm telling you, I'm giving you this warning because this is a tactic that they use. And it is so easy. It is so easy for them to hire a female actor to come on to a man that they want to entrap. It's so easy. Most men can't resist. And they just fall for it. And, a couple hours later, they can blackmail you for life because they've got the photographic evidence. So, you got to practice self-defense. Number one, don't go out drinking with people. If that's your lifestyle right now, then probably you're not really suited to be a leader of the liberty movement. You think Thomas Jefferson was Mr. Partyhead? No. You think George Washington was out, I don't know, snorting cocaine and what do they call it? Eight balling or whatever? I don't know the lingo, but do you think that's what he was doing? No. No, these were serious men who took their roles of their lives and their power seriously. They did not go out and party all day and use their power to be, womanizing, egocentric maniacs. So think about it. Act with integrity. Be a person of character. Don't exploit your success or your position of influence to be Mr. Partyhead. If you do, it's going to destroy you. I'll just go on the record telling you that you're going to be destroyed by it. And there are people right now in the movement, I think, who will be destroyed by their own actions at some point. It all comes out sooner or later. Not from me. I'm not, the stuff that I know privately that's just private knowledge. It's not my place to air, dirty laundry publicly. I'm just saying some of the people that I've seen are so non-careful, they're careless that eventually, someone's going to catch them doing something and it's just going to blow up, and that's going to be real sad to see. So be careful about that. All right, so we've covered 10 items. I'm going to give you one more bonus item here in the next segment as we return here to the top 10 rules for the next generation of leaders of the liberty movement. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Thanks for listening so far. We've got one more segment to go. All right, this is the last segment of my list of information and wisdom for the upcoming leaders of the liberty movement. I call this the top 10 rules for the next generation of leaders of the liberty movement. And I've gone through the list of 10, but let me just briefly summarize those. Number 1, the mainstream media isn't interested in you. Stop talking to them. They're only trying to mock you. Number 2, stop trying to play in Google's playground. Instead, get listed at goodgopher.com. Number 3, be assertive. Tell the truth. Don't apologize for it. Be like Donald Trump. Number 4, never allow yourself to be manipulated into compromising situations that can be used to blackmail you. Don't go out drinking and womanizing, or if you're a woman, manizing, I guess, whatever. Don't do drugs. Don't be out in public where you've lost your mind and embarrassing photos and videos are going to be taken of you, because that will be used to blackmail you. Number 5, plan to have all your monetization cut off by YouTube, Google, or even Visa and MasterCard. Have multiple sources of revenue as a backup. Number 6, if you sell food or dietary products, use my laboratory to make sure that your products are clean before you promote them. And this way you'll have the confidence in knowing that what you're selling is safe and good for your customers. Number 7, don't backstab other people in the liberty movement. Eventually that's going to come back to haunt you. You make a lot of enemies, eventually something happens. Karma is a bitch. Number 8, don't call for violence in any of your work, your articles, your podcasts, and so on. I should add to that point, don't do stupid things like sending texts from your cell phone that can get you arrested. Remember that your cell phone is being monitored. It is astonishing to me how many people don't realize this rule. They don't remember it. They might even talk about it. They know, oh yeah, the NSA is recording your cell phone texts and your cell phone conversations and your web surfing habits and everything you search in Google. And yet then they still send like stupid texts to each other. Like let's go bomb the Target store, whatever. Yeah, really? Yeah, FBI knocking on your door. You sent this text. What do you mean by that? So be smart about it. Don't be, first of all, you shouldn't be calling for violence in the first place. If you're out actually trying to bomb anything, frankly, you're not part of the liberty movement that I stand for. We don't stand for violence. We don't stand for actual terrorism. That's what the government does. They're the damn terrorists. So don't be part of that. And don't, by the way, don't ask me to be part of it either. I'm never going to be part of that stuff. So, and that's why, the feds can't entrap me or people like me in the movement. If I am ever out at a bar, which is never going to happen because I don't drink and I don't socialize anyway. But let's say I did. If I were sitting in a bar and a guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm a big fan. Yeah, let's go bomb, I don't know, whatever they might name some target. Let's say a pharmaceutical company or something. Let's go bomb a pharmaceutical company." You know it's a Fed just trying to entrap you, right? They're just trying to get an arrest so that they can boost their resume for more domestic terrorism arrests, even though they're the ones promoting it. So the answer is hell no. Get the F away from me, buddy. Before before I do something about it, get the hell away from me. Not going to be part of your stupid violence. That's not the way this works. All right. Number 9 was stop sourcing the mainstream media. Promote other news sources in the liberty movement. That would be much better. And if you want to find them, just go to fetch.news or goodgopher.com. Number 10, don't be a hypocrite. If you publicly say that you promote family values and Christian values, don't be a wife cheater, wife beater, womanizer, drinker, whatever. Be consistent with what you claim to be. Otherwise, it's all going to come out sooner or later somehow because, the truth can't be covered up forever. So be consistent. For example, I talk about living a self-reliant lifestyle. And if it ever comes out, if someone ever discovers where I live and they take photos of my place, they're going to find, oh my God, there's the health ranger chopping firewood because I heat with wood. I heat my house with wood. It's going to be consistent with what I've described. Oh, there's the donkeys. There's the goats. Sure enough, he's got donkeys and goats and chickens. It's going to be consistent. It's not a fantasy. It's not some BS public fakery that can be exposed. Like I don't live in a mansion on some golf course somewhere where I'm faking everything, So be consistent. Authenticity counts, and if you're not authentic, eventually you're going to get exposed for it. So just keep that in mind. Now, point number 11, which is the bonus point, and that's the item that I really wanted to focus on in this final segment here, is prepare to be silenced by force. What I mean is prepare to have your website confiscated. Prepare to have your radio show shut down. Prepare to have even possibly your home raided and your computers confiscated. Your bank accounts seized. There are many people in the liberty movement who believe that there's such a thing as a red list, and that this red list is a list of all the people who are the leaders of the liberty movement, and that there will be a night, some night, where everybody on the red list will be raided and perhaps executed or arrested or who knows what. And I don't know if I believe that this is exactly true or not, but I'm sharing with you what is a common belief across many leaders of the liberty movement. Well, if this is true, you should be prepared for it. There are lots of things that you can do, but number 1, you should have a backup plan to preserve all your data, all your website articles. You should have an encrypted thumb drive that you carry with you that is hardware encrypted, that can't be easily broken. All your computers should have their hard drives encrypted. You should have backups of, all your critical data. You should also be prepared to have your website seized and still have a way to reach people. So, by the way, I'm working on some peer-to-peer technology for distributing information even if the DNS system goes down, either from cyber attacks and hacking or seizure by a criminal government regime. I'm not ready to announce that technology yet, but if you're interested in it, just stay tuned to my website, NaturalNews.com. In any case, you should also really, if you're going to be part of the liberty movement, you should not live on a piece of property that has your name on the title. Otherwise, it's public knowledge where you live. Now, even though, of course, feds can track you down based on your cell phone or, maybe by your IP address, things like that, you shouldn't make it easy for rogue enemies to be able to find you and cause you harm or threaten you or intimidate you at your home. I'm always amazed at how many people in the liberty movement still live at an address where their name is on the mailbox. That's just insane. You got to stop living like that. You have to be more cognizant of personal security and personal privacy. And this isn't just against a rogue government. It's also against stalkers or, political enemies, or maybe you say something, you piss somebody off. I know I piss people off all the time with the things that I say because I'm telling the truth. The truth pisses people off. And so they've tried to find me, they haven't been successful because I don't live at a place where my name is on the mailbox. It's very simple. I don't get mail at the place I live. I don't get UPS shipments at the place I live. Plus, I have a big rifle and a big dog and a donkey that can kick you in the balls too. No, just joking. Anyway, prepare for this. If you really think that there's a red list and that they're coming to get you, well, what's your plan? I mean, do you have a plan to escape? Do you have a bug out plan? Do you have a backup location? How are you going to be part of the liberty movement if you're dead or arrested? If that's what you think they're going to do. So you need to plan for your safety. Plan to be safe and free so that you can protect your First Amendment right to free speech. You can protect your person, your family, your property against any threat. Maybe it's motorcycle gangs. Maybe it's illegal immigrants coming in to rape you, right? Like Donald Trump warns about. Who knows? Maybe you said something bad about illegal immigrants and they looked up your address and they're going to come rape you, right? Who knows? And that's not necessarily a joke. I'm just talking about there could be a lot of risks out there, risks to your life, your property, your family, and so on. There could be someone that tries to stage a break-in just to destroy your computer, take you offline for a couple of days. So they hire some goon to break in and just beat up your office with a baseball bat or something. Just a form of intimidation. So what are you going to do about it? Do you have video cameras recording everything? If so, is your video server hidden or in plain sight? Can someone break into your house and easily find your video storage server and steal that and walk away with all the evidence? If so, you're not very smart. You're not thinking. So you need to think about all these things, multiple layers of security and awareness and evidence. And you need to have backup plans upon backup plans, just in case. Just in case someone threatens you or someone tries to intimidate you, or who knows, maybe there's a war that breaks out and you're living in a state that gets overrun by the Russians. And you and your friends are fighting back against the Russian invasion. And you're going to need some security, right? So these are good plans no matter what the situation is. Maybe there's an EMP attack, a grid failure. And suddenly you're in a Mad Max survival preparedness situation. You're going to need these plans. You're going to need security. So this isn't just, being safe against a criminal government regime. This is being safe against any unknown. And that's why I offer all this information. I want you to stay alive, obviously, so that you can continue to be a voice for liberty. That's the bottom line. You can't be a voice for liberty if you're dead. And so the more effective you become, the more you're going to be targeted. So take all of these things seriously that I've mentioned here, these 11 points. Take them seriously, follow them. You will have more longevity and more success. And it does require you to be a strong person, a person with ethics, with morals, with values. It requires you to be a person with courage. But if you're not a person with courage and ethics and values, you don't belong in the liberty movement anyway. So please share this with others and be strong and spread the word. We can win. We just have to stick to our philosophies and stay alive at the same time. Thanks for listening. Take care.